My early 20s were the emptiest years of my life. I constantly felt worthless and directionless, as if I was so unbearably lost. Everything was upside down, and I just kept falling. When I hit 20, reality really started to hit for me. I was a fucking loser, and to be honest, I couldn't figure out why. Partly because as an inexperienced 20-year-old, I had no idea how life worked, but also because I was too ignorant. I just didn't know. I didn't put in the effort to learn new things or to really step outside of my comfort zone.
If I take an objective look at my early 20s, I do think that I could have done so many things so much better when it comes from that idea of becoming the exceptional human being that I envision my future self to be.
And just like anyone else, I want the most out of life, from the Lamborghini outside to the beautiful wife and kids waiting for me inside, all with a lifestyle that easily supports it. But those things require a roadmap and deep self-improvement, which at 20, I had no awareness for.
I could have developed so many optimal skills that would have just pushed me so much further ahead.
Now at this point where I am today, I still don't have it all figured out. I still can't completely not look at a bill when it comes in. I still have so many character flaws like my selfishness or my arrogance to work on. But I do believe that I've come to a much better place from where I can share my experiences to help you at least a little bit, to maybe help you navigate your early 20s with much more courage.
Because right now I'm 26, I'm not even that far ahead of my early 20s, but I do feel like I'm playing a bit of catch up. And it just comes down to the fact that I didn't know a few certain things. And it's those few things that I want to talk about in this video today. So, let's go.
For the first time in years, I recently ended up going on a trip to Colorado with my family. But know that in my late teens / early 20s, I've always had a careless attitude about being with my family. Maybe because I was young and arrogant, I just thought it didn't mean much. So I used this trip as a way of bringing back the importance of family in my life. On the first day in a town called Breckenridge, along with my brothers and cousins, we jumped from bar to bar. But what I found so interesting, at least for me, was that we were doing nothing else other than genuinely enjoying each other's company. And it reminded me that it's the little details, the small things that we do in life that can make all the difference. One thing to always keep in mind is that the quality of your life is only as good as your worst habit. When I was 20, I developed this horrible habit of constantly sleeping through everything. I could fall asleep anywhere, anytime for at least a few hours, which at first might seem great because I could sleep through college classes or boring experiences, but I took it so far that I would use it as an excuse not to do things. And when you combine that with my attitude of not caring about almost anything, my life would suddenly just turn into this constant grogginess, countless missed opportunities, and a straight path into that directionlessness that plagued me. I was essentially sabotaging myself the whole time. So start with the small positive habits, though here's what makes the difference, and I don't think it's talked about enough, is that we all know what the good habits are. Exercise, a morning routine, etc. But you get to choose which habit is easiest for you to start with. For example, for me, it's very easy to go to the gym consistently, but it was difficult to drink a glass of water every morning. But once I made going to the gym second nature, the habit of drinking a glass of water every morning came to me so much more easily. And then the habit of eating a healthy breakfast every morning stacked on top of that. And then that 2-hour deep work session every day on top of that, and so on. The point is, don't start with what's best for you, start with what's easiest for you. Which leads me to my next point, momentum. Throughout this Colorado trip, apart from being with family, my intention was to capture every moment to make an absolutely amazing YouTube video. But what I didn't realize was how much energy that was going to take and how much I'd have to adapt to the changing circumstances of each location. We stopped at the Garden of the Gods, which I was less than enthusiastic about. It wasn't interesting, it had nothing going on. Initially, I was thinking I'd just skip this part of the trip, but I forced myself to look at it as an opportunity to build my filmmaking skills. So I set the goal to capture at least one epic shot. So I did. When we're in our early 20s, especially if you're someone like me with massive goals, we throw ourselves into this cycle of frustration. We want to accomplish everything so fast, but it never plays out the way that we want. But I've realized that's only because we direct our impatience towards those endpoints, our goals and dreams, instead of the next step that's right in front of us. As I mentioned earlier, I want the Lamborghini, and in due time, I'll get it. But I'll only get it as fast as the next step that I take in that direction. How fast can I come to understand money? How fast can I learn to build a profitable business? And all the steps in between, which are quite a lot. But if I put the Lamborghini aside, focus my impatience on those next steps, get through them with speed, get things done, then it's inevitable that that Lamborghini will come into my life, and at a much earlier stage than I had probably anticipated. All I'm essentially saying here is to focus your impatience, your frustration, or whatever else solely on taking that next step. You want to do the work, not because you're obligated by your goal to, but because you want to build that momentum that's going to swing you way past what you've set for yourself. And you'll feel it in real time as well. An easy example of this in my life today is my time spent at the gym, where of course I'm building a much better physique, but the momentum from taking that action every day has presented itself as reception from more women. People are generally treating me better, deeper self-discipline and confidence, much less resistance when I start to do the work. And with all of that happening to me, it's very difficult to go into the next day not wanting to keep going, to build upon that already charged momentum. Now, of course, not every day feels like that, but that invisible momentum meter is always there. And when you're not building momentum, you're losing it. The framework that's helped me the most here is the 5-minute rule. Whenever I don't want to go to the gym or do the work or whatever, I tell myself that I only have to do it for 5 minutes. And afterwards, if I still don't feel like doing it, I can stop right then and there. But what ends up happening by the time those 5 minutes have passed by is that I'm already in my flow state. So the work gets done anyways, like 97% of the time. Around Dillon Lake is Highway 6, Swan Mountain Road, where you can catch some epic views of the surrounding ranges. Being from California, it was as if we were in a winter wonderland during the springtime. Being as beautiful as it was, my cousins and I decided to hike a random snowy trail in the area. We were constantly falling in the snow, wondering when this trail would finally go back to the lot, but through it all, we still found ourselves loving the experience of just doing something spontaneous in a location that we were completely unfamiliar with. It was as if life was a bit more colorful because of it. At 20, we all have so many curiosities. You find yourself constantly being interested by more and more new experiences. But the issue here is that most of us will never act on what intrigues us. In my 4 regrets from my early 20s video, I talked about how I wished I joined the archery club in college, which would have been absolutely fucking awesome. Though now it's just a missed opportunity in my distant past. But this is where spontaneity taps in. You know that fuck it, screw it, I'm just going to do it, feeling that you lean into when your best friend tells you to take another shot. Do the same thing whenever you come across anything that interests you, even a little bit. That Sunday in Colorado, I went snowboarding with my brothers in Breckenridge. Keep in mind that they're expert snowboarders while I was snowboarding for the second time ever. But when we were right below the peak of the mountain, I wanted to know if I could board down from the tip top, the absolute peak, as a beginner. My brothers weren't for it at all because you had to climb instead of taking the lift up to the top for a little bit, but I just told myself, I'm just gonna do it anyways, and went up to the peak alone. Though 5 minutes after I had reached the top, it turns out my brothers were right behind me all along. That's kind of insane. And we're still feeling like we're on top of the world. And this is the drop. Do you think you'll be able to do this pretty easily? Okay. It's much steeper off camera. We're gonna hope that it goes well.
Now come down straight to us. Okay, I'm stopping the video.
I am so glad that I followed my curiosity that day and let the spontaneity carry me up there because it was absolutely insane. I know just because I did that, I truly maximized the experience that I could have gotten out of Breckenridge, because who knows when I'm ever gonna do something like that again. And that's exactly what your early 20s are. The greatest opportunity for you to try the wildest things that are right in front of you. Dance on the edge. Go on those unexpected adventures, because that's anyways how you're going to find the things that you are passionate about, or the things that will ground you in a purposeful direction. Also, this is a hack for dating, because 1, you can take the girl out to something that you actually wanted to try, like rock climbing for instance. 2, you're attaching that girl to you through an experience instead of some boring interview style dinner date. 3, it's very easy to initiate physical touch and get more intimate. 4, it's a filter that easily finds out for you if you actually enjoy the company of this girl or not. But all of this could be a whole separate video on its own, so for now, I'll leave it at that. One stop my mother absolutely wanted to make this trip was the Strawberry Hot Springs. We ended up driving 2 hours, once again covered with amazing scenery. There were frozen over lakes and stretches of mountains that seemed to go on forever. I also just ended up crashing my drone for these shots. Honestly, I wasn't too thrilled about the hot springs, as I don't particularly enjoy being in closed pools of water with other people, but it was a nice spot located at the bottom of the surrounding snow hills. I forced myself to try it out since it'd be my first time, and I still didn't like it, but I'm glad I tried. There's a post from Dan Coe that I think speaks volumes. Force yourself into uncomfortable situations so that you don't end up a 50-year-old with the emotional maturity of a 15-year-old. The key word here is force. You need to choose the uncomfortable, and I think that's especially true in your 20s, considering the world that we live in, where convenience is everywhere. It's almost hard to find yourself in real discomfort. So take up the role of making room for it, because it's not so much about going through the discomfort as it is overcoming the difficulties. That's where the most exceptional version of you will be forged. As for the approach to this, I think it's similar to what I mentioned in the first tip. Choose which discomfort is easiest for you and then build from there. You could start with a 5-minute cold shower every Wednesday, or maybe going up to at least one stranger a week to strike up a good conversation, and so on. And just as stacking habits go, stacking wins from discomfort will build life-changing momentum. At the hot springs that we went to, there was a frigid river running right next to it. Parts of it were actually frozen over, but I saw the opportunity to overcome something that I hadn't done in a very long time.
All right, cold plunge time. Discomfort is comfort. Ready?
A 1-minute cold plunge, and right after I had gotten out of the hot spring too.
Oh, I'm gonna hit myself. Okay, ready? 3, 2, and count. Oh, okay, it's not that bad. It's not that bad. Yeah, I'm gonna put my head under. Fuck. We can do this one more time.
Move towards your left. Never mind. You want to die. That's called a brain freeze.
Lifeguard your ass. Oh, fuck. Oh, dude, my eyes are hurting on the third one, and my head was hurting. They're panicking, but I'm fine. Discomfort is comfort.
Honestly, there was no reason to do that at all. It was fucking freezing, and I don't do well in the cold. But being able to overcome that just to prove to myself that I am capable gave me that deeper confidence, that undeniable evidence that I can get through any difficulty. And I wish that I had created more of that courage through discomfort when I was 20. At the end of Highway 6 is a lone lookout with an uncharted mountain peak you can scale. As always, I wanted to get those epic drone shots from above, especially because it would have been a full 360 view of absolutely beautiful mountain ranges. My cousin and I started climbing, but what I thought was going to be a maximum of 30 minutes to the top became 3 hours of harsh conditions. It was hard to breathe, a small snowstorm started to kick in, and it was only getting colder, but we kept on going.
We finally made it to the top. After a bunch of pain and progression.
Though the worst part of it all was that when we got to the top, the clouds rolled in and completely blocked the view. We managed to climb all the way up just to not be able to get the shots that I wanted. We had to start heading back down as a small blizzard was picking up, but instead of being disappointed, I was extremely proud of myself. And I think that's because no matter what happened on this little side quest, the fact is that I pushed through all the odds.
We have to do the hard things, especially when we don't want to, especially when we think we can. Because I think we'll always find that our limitations are much further beyond than what we imagine them to be.
The early 20s will always have a tougher side to them, especially because that's when reality pretty much starts to hit you like a truck. For me, it felt as if life was trying to get in my way at any and every opportunity that it had. It was very difficult for me to stay focused or to do the hard work, or at times even just do what I enjoyed. But I came across this framework, I don't know where, called the good old days. It's very similar to Alex Hormoz's rocking chair test, where you ask yourself if the 85-year-old version of you would be proud of the action/decisions that you're making today. But the idea is that you are currently in what the older version of you would consider the good old days, because you'll look back at these days that you're in now and laugh at them with either joy or regret. Which feeling it'll end up being, you get to decide in these moments right now. So whenever I'm going through a high pressure situation, when I'm overcoming the discomfort or going to war with my flaws, and I feel like I'm giving up in some way, I resort to this mental frame because it just gives me that extra bit of power that I need to keep on pushing through. So when the version of me with the Lamborghini, with the beautiful wife and kids, looks back at the good old days, I want him to laugh with so much joy. I want him to look back and be so proud of the version of me that's around today. But past that, at 20, you have the vitality and the time to truly go after everything that you want with full force. You can and you should make as many mistakes as possible towards your dreams. The reason being, just like the good old days, it'll all pass by. And because you're 20, with almost no consequence other than maybe a missed learning opportunity. So if it's all going to pass by like that anyways, why not take the largest risks? Why not work the hardest that you can to take everything that you want from life? The largest takeaway from this Colorado trip relative to being in your early 20s is that you will always be at your best when you are constantly in motion. I found that the more I forced myself into those new experiences, the more I built my self-awareness to improve, the more I was able to combat that feeling of being hopelessly lost. And in the end, I found a direction to push my life in, this YouTube channel actually being a part of that direction. After that, it just became the cycle of continually building the confidence and courage to face life as head-on as possible. So hopefully my shared experience has given you some useful insight. Subscribe, and to those of us fighting to take steps forward in the chaotic journey that is our 20s, it's time to skyrocket.